everyone, and welcome back to our podcast, Returning to Catholic Roots in a New Age World. My name is Holly, and as always, I'm joined here by my mother, Mandy. And we'll begin our episode by saying, Jesus, meek and humble of heart, make our hearts like unto thine. So, little bit of a different episode this week. Going to try to get through this episode.
Try very hard, yeah.
Anyways, we're going to dedicate this episode to my dear friend, Alexa Martin, and we're going to push through this episode for a very important reason, for me anyways, because I think people need it, and she does leave behind a legacy.
Yeah.
A very important legacy. And as I was saying to somebody, well, I've been saying to a lot of people over the last few days, I don't think I knew a finer woman on earth than her. I don't. So we might have to stop a few times during this episode, but I'm gonna do it.
I think
because
maybe I myself personally is going to try and stick to the facts.
yeah,
Stick to the facts so we can get through it.
Yeah.
Facts, as Ben Shapiro said, don't care about your feelings. So if we stick to the facts,
yeah,
we might be able to do this.
yeah.
Holly, I said we need to do this, and Holly said, I don't know if I can.
Well, I said at first, I said absolutely not. I said I can't do that. I can't. I've been for the last 2 days an absolute mess. And for those of you that maybe don't know, I to be honest, I've only known Alexa. I've known of her for I knew of
A long
her
time.
for a long time.
Yeah.
But I've only really been a close friend to her for the last 2 years.
Yeah.
We actually met through Trad Chat because
Right.
when I say met, I mean actually formed our connection because our daughters became friends on Trad Chat.
Yes.
My daughter Ava and her daughter Lena became friends on Trad Chat, and then we thought that it would be very nice for them to actually meet in person. And when I found out I always knew they were in Michigan, and I'm like, that's not that far.
Right.
And and I have to say that when I went down there for the very first time and met her in person, I had met her before at other circumstances, but not formed a connection. You instantly felt like family.
Right.
Her and her husband Isaac made you feel like family, and
well, they had, and Isaac said it many times that their house didn't belong to them, and I think you read something.
I read, she told me one of the last times we spoke recently, well, it was a few times before that when we were coming down to stay, and you're always kind of like, we don't want to be in the way or whatever, or if there's too many people coming, let us know. And she just said to me, Isaac always said that their home was consecrated to the Sacred Heart, and it was owned by Christ the King.
Yeah.
And it was there for his disposal. Whoever he deemed it necessary need to stay in their home. It did not belong to them. It belonged to Christ the King. And their family, she just was just filled with so much conviction and for her faith and so she was a very good friend of mine, very good friend. And it hit me. I didn't realize how good of a friend she was.
No, I think
I thought we had this connection because our daughters were friends.
Yes.
And you always looked at and I feel ashamed even saying this, but you always looked at what you thought you were always talking to get them together.
Right.
And then when I was going back and reading through our messages of message after message and message, and I was like, she was my friend,
Right.
She was my friend. And I am so blessed and so grateful that we formed that connection. I will be forever grateful that she was a part of my life, so it just is like God puts people in your life.
Right.
And at the time, you don't even realize how much you needed that person.
No.
But she was put into my life for a very special reason. And,
well, she did, like you said, I've known Alexa of her, I've been in passing because I had friends in Middlevale other friends, and I've been at places where she's been, but it's always been a hi, whatever, nice to meet you,
Yeah,
but not, but just an
just a
exchange. It was
pleasant passing.
when we started the podcast,
Right.
and she reached out to us,
Yes.
and then that's when the real friendship started, and
Started.
we went down there, and of course Isaac and her and the children, everything was so nice.
Well, and I'll tell you guys, just to share a little memory. My mom and I would go down there and we'd spend days at their house.
Yeah,
Well, the one time we went down there, it was shortly after, was it after Easter?
I
I
don't
can't remember. And we stayed almost close to a week or something. It was
right.
like, it was a while we were there. And you didn't, I don't know, I'm not going to speak for my mother, but for myself, it was a hard place to leave.
Yeah,
It was so hard to get up and leave to go home.
right.
I just never wanted to go home when I was there. And my mom would be sitting there. She's like, because there's also this thing in Michigan with the deer
Yeah,
at
right.
night. And
Yeah,
it's very hard to drive back from Michigan to Canada at night because the deer are just constantly like little beady eyes looking at you in the dark
yeah,
all the time, right? And my mom would be sitting there and she'd be like, okay, Holly, we really got to go. Like,
yeah,
we really got to get on the road, right?
right. Yeah,
Because it was about a 3.5 hour drive
for us. Yeah,
for us. And I can remember sitting there on her couch and going, I just don't want to I don't want to go home. I
right,
just never wanted to leave. And, it's just, we would go there and I remember one night, it was Thursday night and it was First Friday. And we were going to get up and go to First Friday in Middleville, remember? Because
right.
we were
Yes,
spending
yeah,
the night. And we all looked at each other. It was my mom, me, and Alexa, and we're sitting there talking. And I don't know which one of us said it, but they were like, it's 2 o'clock in the morning.
yeah. We would,
They're like, we're going to First Friday tomorrow. We got to go to bed.
yeah, we would stay up
All
all
night
night.
talking.
Like, I know
And,
we're talkers, so that's
we're
not of a
talkers.
stretch
And
for us.
she
So,
just, it's not a stretch, but yeah, I will miss my friend.
hmm
So,
and I was gonna say something, I forgot.
sorry.
So, we were always there. We were there at their house. And I said to Holly, like, of course, this news just hit us like unbelievable, you know? And so you have many first thoughts that come to you. And I was thinking, and you start thinking about them and you start replaying them in your head. And every time we were down there, and I never walked in there and thought, oh, I'm amongst a saint. Like
Yeah.
I never thought that. But when you start replaying everything that come to your head,
Hmm.
and you start to say to you, I said to Holly, I said, I never once heard her raise her voice to those children.
Never.
Never. And I said, granted, we're not in their home 24/7, so we don't know exactly what goes on when we're
Hmm.
not there.
Hmm.
But she definitely had a presence that was so calming,
Meek, calm,
meek and calming,
gentle.
gentle to the children. And the children were meek, calm. I mean, sure, there you have your children kerfuffles,
Hmm.
your falls, your scrapes, your tears,
Hmm.
maybe even a little bit of battle here and there, but not
Yeah.
much.
No.
But you did not feel like you were in a house where the ceilings were falling in.
No.
You know?
I mean, you want to talk about a house full of love.
Yeah.
Like it was just,
And I thought, and then when you start to think about it, then you start to find, I mean, for myself, I started to look for faults.
yeah.
Like, and I was like, well, I don't see any. I mean,
Hmm.
and don't get me wrong. Like, I mean, as Catholics, it's not our job to paint people as saints.
Hmm.
We have to, you know, we have to kind of not go there. We have to
Yeah.
assume they need our prayers, and that I mean, and obviously, like you and I, we weren't with her 24/7. We
Right.
don't know. We don't know things, but
Hmm.
I mean, we do know the general, you know, view of things, the general how they function, the general, and I even know, even talking to her, I remember, do you remember how something wasn't right, like
Mm-hmm.
if things weren't going right, and I'm not talking about within her own household, I'm talking about outside, like
Outside.
what goes on in the world kind of
Right.
thing, right? And we talked a lot about that because
Mm-hmm.
it was her concern, what am I going to do with these children?
Right.
This world, the children, and so it was her thing. So do you remember that when something wasn't right, how big her eyes would go, and like she never said anything, but her eyes would go big and she'd
Yeah.
kind of pull her head back like
Yeah.
that? Do you remember
Yes,
that?
I
Like
remember
she
that.
never said anything like
Yeah.
bad,
Yeah.
or she just made this face like, oh my gosh, do they know what they're doing, kind
Yeah.
of thing,
Yeah.
and it was really, and I kept picturing it like because you know how we have a tendency, like if things aren't right, to be I'm going to say maybe a little bit more harsh or a little bit
Harsh. Yeah.
more, you know
Yeah. For lack of a better word, I don't want to say confrontation, but we just kind of like, like
like
we
angry almost.
angry. Yeah.
Yeah, but she wasn't never angry. She would always, her eyes would go big and her
Yeah.
head would go back and it'd be like, I don't know,
Well, and
I just don't know.
and I'm gonna say too, a great woman of intuition,
Yeah.
and because her and her daughter and little St Zelie, came up to Canada once, and we went to church. I took her to our church here, and then she was coming back to my house. We all just rode in the same vehicle, and around this time, I was dealing with something really weighing on me, and I had told her a little bit about it, but on the way home, she just knew.
Yeah.
She knew exactly what to say to me, and it was so comforting, and it was so. And we had talked about this when I was at her house last time,
Uh-huh.
and we were driving home, and out of nowhere, she said to me, she said, I was thinking about that thing you were telling me about the last time you were down at my place. And she said, I wanted to tell you that, um, you know, no matter what the deal is, and I can't speak about the situation, but it's hard. I can't really say what she said because I can't speak about the situation. But the words that she said just, right to my core. And it was like out of nowhere,
Right.
she knew
Right.
exactly what to say to me. People are just coming forward with so many little pearls of wisdom.
Uh-huh.
And at the time when she was here, you didn't think about it,
Right. Right. And
but now all these things, and it's like she touched so many people
they well, your sisters said they met her
when she came here.
when
Yeah.
she came here to visit us. The women met her, the family anyway. And they said they cannot get over
Yeah.
the outpouring of love
For her.
for her, like how much she is touching people in
Yeah.
ways you didn't know you were going to
You
be
didn't know
touched.
someone could be touched,
It's
you
just
know?
it's a little bit, well, I'm going to use the word bizarre just for a lack of a better word, unexpected. Like
Well,
it just makes you
I'm
think.
going to say it's very humbling
Yeah,
to know that here was this beautiful soul,
very unassuming too.
very unassuming, like not out in the public eye, not
Yeah,
but knew all these people
yeah,
under the surface, I'm going to say, for lack of a better word,
right.
you know, and just, you know, I didn't know all these people that are coming forward and saying, "Oh, she did this for me," or "Oh, she did," we had this conversation one time, or "Oh, I met her one time."
Yeah,
And she was just so whatever they say,
yeah,
There was a lady that I was talking to yesterday about it that goes to my church, and she said, "Oh," she goes, "I remember when she came over to visit you, and I met her just briefly after mass." And she said, she talked to her for maybe 10 minutes,
yeah.
and she said there was just something about her, she said. Just something about her that was just different,
Well, I used to think too, because I've been around for a while, and I used to think in my head that she was a little bit different. I used to think because she had a different background story than kind of what's traditionally
Right.
done, and amongst the traditional movement. And I was thinking, I don't know, I used to think, how did you come from where you came from?
And here you are.
And here you are, and you're, like, it was all about, and I'm going to tell, speaking to the young mothers out there, in her house, it was all about the prayers. It was all
Yeah.
about the devotions. It was all about the spiritual. It was all about getting her kids to heaven.
Yeah.
That's all she cared about.
Yeah.
And it is really all she cared about.
It is,
You know,
without a
and
doubt.
I mean, now she has a saint there for 100%,
Yeah.
little Zelie, and she's there somewhere. Like,
Yeah.
and I can't help but think not too far from God,
Yeah.
myself personally. Not to make assumptions.
No.
But what kind of struck me is, people on the internet will know that right before this accident, there was another car accident with a woman and two
Mhm.
sons,
Mhm.
were killed.
Mhm.
And here in Canada, a week before that, there was a mother of a large family that was killed
Killed.
in a car accident. So we didn't. I didn't know anything about the other mother. I didn't know anything about these other two mothers or who they were. But it did kind of strike a chord to me. A member of our parish went to the funeral of the mother here in Canada. They
Mhm.
went to the Pius X Society, and because this family, I guess probably, they used to go to the Pius X Society occasionally a long time ago, so they might have known her. But anyway, they went to her funeral, and she said, "What the heck? Like three mothers of large families
All
in
within
like within
2
2
weeks.
weeks of
Yeah.
each other, right?" And she's like, "What is going on?" And you do have to say what is going on, because, well, at this funeral, our friend was telling us of the woman here in, Canada that died. Um, the the priest, kept going on about a valiant woman,
Yeah.
and it kind of, it kind of struck me because she was telling us, right? And again, these are people that, well, I don't know at all, and our friend, I think, barely knows, but they went to the funeral. But I said, well, the valiant woman is probably my very favorite. I say that about a lot of things. I always say they're my favorite, but I have so many favorites. But this is really one of my favorites, passages from the Bible, because it's kind of a way that I've tried to live my life. And I
Mhm.
feel like, even though these other two women that I did not know at all, this was three valiant women,
Women.
right? I
Yeah.
just want, why don't you read us that?
All right. So we'll go ahead and read this about the valiant woman.
Tell us what Bible quote it is.
So
Is it
it's
listed there so people can look it up
yeah,
if they want?
it
Mothers can, and wives.
Proverbs 31:10-31.
Yeah.
So, quote, "Who shall find a valiant woman? Far and from the uttermost coasts is the price of her. The heart of her husband trusteth in her, and he shall have no need of spoils. She will render him good and not evil all the days of her life. She has sought wool and flax, and hath wrought by the counsel of her hands. She is like the merchant ship, she bringeth her bread from afar. And she hath risen in the night, and given a prey to her household, and victuals to her maidens. She has considered a field and bought it. With the fruit of her hands she hath planted a vineyard. She hath girded her loins with strength, and has strengthened her arm. She hath tasted and seen that her traffic is good. Her lamp shall not be put out in the night. She hath put out her hand to the strong things, and her fingers have taken hold of the spindle. She hath opened her hand to the needy, and stretched out her hands to the poor. She shall not fear for her house in the coldest snow, for all her domestics are clothed with double garments. She hath made for herself clothing of tapestry, fine linen, and purple is her covering. Her husband is honorable in the gates, when he sitteth among the senators of the land. She made fine linen and sold it, and delivered a girdle to the Canaanite. Strength and beauty are her clothing, and she shall laugh in the latter day. She hath opened her mouth to wisdom, and the law of clemency is on her tongue. She hath looked well to the paths of her house, and hath not eaten her bread idle. Her children rose up and called her blessed. Her husband and he praised her. Many daughters have gathered together riches. Thou hast surpassed them all. Favor is deceitful, and beauty is vain. The woman that feareth the Lord shall be praised. Give her of the fruit of her hands, and let her works praise her in the gates. End quote.
You know, um, like I said, I mean, that's probably one of my favorite, well, a favorite pertaining to women,
Mm-hmm.
and about how a woman is to live her life. And I mean, to sum that up, basically, the garments, clothe them in the garments and all that stuff. They're talking about the prayers and the sacrifices and the things that make a woman strong,
Yeah,
and and clear. I mean, I know without a doubt that Alexa was a valiant woman.
100%.
I know that the priest said about this other woman, the Pius X, may she rest in peace. They were calling her a valiant woman.
Mm-hmm.
And from what I've read on Facebook and places, the other woman with the two boys,
Mm-hmm.
a valiant woman.
Mm-hmm.
And the one thing that I think, like, we're grieving, everybody's grieving, the family, they've lost their valiant woman. And but I think we have to think about things and you know, put our hope in the Lord,
Yeah,
basically, because, she can do more good. Like, her work is not over.
right,
She's moved on. And, like when we say the prayers to the souls in purgatory, um, we know that in death you can be more united than in life.
right.
And she's done the work. She's set the seeds. She's been all the goodness that God wanted.
Well, and I did just want to point out there are so many parallels.
Uh-huh.
The day she died, the day after she died.
Yeah.
The day she died was the feast of Saint Andrew, patron saint of sudden deaths.
Yeah.
The day after she died was the feast of Saint Martin
Right.
de Tours. Their last name is Martin.
Right.
The next day after that, another Saint Martin,
Yeah.
the Pope. And I even like I had thought of this and somebody put it into words on Facebook, but I'm not taking credit for it. I was just thinking it already about how much their life almost, I mean, don't want to sound so presumptuous when I say this, but parallels the life of the Martin family, St. Teresa's family.
Right.
You know, the mother, Zelie, St. Teresa's mother, died very young,
Uh-huh.
and left St. Teresa and her sisters to be raised by the father. And, anyways, but I did want to say too that in the prayers for the dead, on the day that our dear Alexa died, the end part of the prayer said, Our Lord Jesus, by the merits of the sorrows of the Virgin Mother, release from purgatory the soul that is dearest to thee. And we know, I think we know that God calls those back home who are so dear to him. And I take comfort in that, she was my friend and that's how dear she was to him. You know, that God just, whether she's in purgatory or she's in heaven, we don't know, but what we do know without a doubt that she was a good, loving servant. One of the best I knew, you know, and without a doubt, after talking to her many, many, many times, this woman loved God and loved with all her heart and all her soul. And I can't help but get the thought out of my mind that she loved God so much. And I truly, firmly believe that God called her back so that she could do more good for her family there than she could ever do here. And I hope and pray that her family can take comfort in that, her poor children, and and I'm going to pray for the rest of my life for her because I want her to be a prayer for me, you know. So, I think the whole reason why I want to say this, and I'm struggling to get it out because she does need our prayers regardless, and God knows what to do with those prayers. And her family needs our prayers. And I used to think that Facebook was so evil. I hated it. I hated it, but I can't help but think without it,
Yeah.
all this, it's almost like the good, we know that God can turn any sort of evil into a good tool
Right.
if he so wishes. And, Facebook is so evil and there's so much garbage on there, but it's been such a comfort to go on there every day since Sunday and see how much she has touched people,
Mm-hmm.
you know. So I can't get off of it.
What, Facebook?
I can't get off of it.
Right.
Every day I go, it's like my last little connection to her,
Uh-huh.
because we weren't close in distance,
Right.
but
And
many messages back and forth.
I mean, years ago too, I've heard mothers say, I've heard this sentiment, and I mean, we're if we could take it back again to the name of this podcast, living a Catholic life in a new age world. I've heard this sentiment before that from mothers that I have to live long enough to get my kids
Like
situated
waited
and
or
through this world, right?
yeah,
And I said, and I remember in particular, and I'm like, well, the church teaches us what the church teaches us that we are actually more powerful from the other side.
yeah,
So if you, I mean, even as long as we're not in hell,
right,
but like even if we're in purgatory, you know,
yeah.
a soul in purgatory can't help themselves, but they can help us.
Well, and the other thing that really comforts me is that when people say God denies his saints nothing,
Right.
and we know without a doubt that her daughter is a saint,
Yes.
without a doubt.
Yes.
And if God denies his saints nothing,
Mm-hmm.
if you don't think for 1 second that she is not up there staring God face to face,
Yeah.
interceding for her mother and those left behind, I mean, what a beautiful faith we have.
Right.
And it makes me so sad to think about people that don't have that when their mothers die and their siblings die and they don't, and they just, I don't know, hear what, you
Right.
know?
And I mean, the other thing too, I mean, we went through a tragic death. Can't remember how long ago, 15 years ago now. But more so actually when my father died. Actually, it was the anniversary of my father's death yesterday, November 11th. He's been gone 9 years. And I mean, I was sad when he died, but I wasn't grief stricken.
Right.
Even though, I mean, obviously it's a different situation because he's older and he was sick, than a young mother with a bunch of children. It's a totally different situation. But the one thing that brought me the most consolation was to know that the Blessed Virgin, Jesus died on a cross and he left.
Mm-hmm.
And he left behind his mother.
Mm-hmm.
She was here for 15 years
Without him.
without him.
Yeah.
And I thought, 15 years, is that a long time or is that a drop in a bucket? But you can, if we think about things as, that's our home in heaven. Well, your job is done here.
Mm-hmm.
You move on, but you have to stay because you have more work to do.
Right.
And if you even think about it, like Isaac could have been taken too.
Yeah.
Like, and then, but no, your work is done here, but your
It,
husband's is
it's
still
not
here.
here. Yeah.
Like, we have to understand that.
Yeah.
We have to understand um, the duty, the connection to our duty and doing the will of God, and that all things are working together for that,
Mm-hmm.
especially for those who pray.
Right.
So it's what gives us comfort. And I know here we are, we're barely making it through this,
Mm-hmm.
you know, but it is comfort. It is joy. It is the thoughts of joy in the midst of sorrow,
Yeah.
right? Because we're sad because we have to live without them.
Yeah.
And then we think about which causes the most sorrow is the little children and
Yeah.
the husband that has to live without them.
Yeah.
But we do have to have the confidence. And if Isaac ever listens to this, I mean, we are coming down to visit soon, later, you know, um, and I probably could tell him in person. Well, I've already sent him a message, but to understand that your convictions were right.
Yeah.
They weren't wrong. Your convictions were right, and that to have faith in those convictions
Mm-hmm.
now more so than ever. I mean, that's all that I can say about, or that I want to say, I guess.
Yeah. It's just so, I think the problem too is the suddenness
Yes.
of everything, you know. It's like something just being yanked away out of just, and you feel like, the unexpectedness of it,
Right.
like it's just, but we always have to put back in our minds that God is in control.
Mm-hmm.
Not a hair on our head
Falls without
falls
without his permission.
without his permission, and God allowed this. God allowed this to be so.
Uh-huh. Not only
And
did he allow it, you have to say he wanted
he
it.
wanted it.
You
For
have to say,
whatever his reason, he wanted it.
yeah,
And that's not ours to question. That's not ours to, you know, and
and then,
I mean, to me, I, and I hope this comes out right, but I feel I feel blessed that I get to say I knew her,
yeah.
because I feel like she has been so blessed
Mm-hmm.
to be called back. I do. I do, because there's been times in my life where I'm like, this world just is awful,
Yeah.
and I just want to go to heaven so bad, but I also say, well, God, don't take me if I'm not going there,
Yeah.
Please allow me more time so that I know I'm going there. I don't want to be called to purgatory,
Yeah.
you know? And for whatever reason, I just I just feel blessed. I do. I do feel blessed to say that she was my friend.
And I do think she is. I think she is touching people right now that didn't even know her.
Yeah.
Well, like your sisters. They met
Yeah.
her, but they didn't know
They
her.
didn't know her, but they're so touched, you know? And I find myself, for the last 2 days, I haven't really been able to do anything. And my house is a mess. And I was sitting here this afternoon, and I thought to myself, I feel like Alexa would be like, get up and clean your house,
Yeah.
do your duty. And
Yeah.
I told myself that, and I do feel like that she's touching me even now, I didn't do it. you know. I'm ashamed to say I didn't do it because I was just so sad, but it did. And I feel like she's like, the thought of her is going to be with me for the rest of my life. And I do feel like that when you think of Saint Teresa, and she said, and their family had a very strong devotion to Saint Teresa. I mean, she named her daughter Zelie,
Yeah.
you know. So, but Saint Teresa said, I'm going to spend my heaven
Yeah.
doing good on earth.
Right.
And And I will carry my friend with me for the rest of my life, thinking of how good of a mother she was,
Yeah.
a wife, good of a wife, good of a housemaker. That was her whole world.
Right.
That her whole world was her family and being a mother and everything. And I'm going to strive to remember that and try to emulate that because she was such a good example and such a unassuming example.
Right. Like I said,
Like she
it's only since she's gone that you reflect
well, and
back.
that's what I'm saying. I never would have thought, would I have been sitting here going, you should get up and clean your house because that's what Alexa Martin would do?
Yeah. No.
No. And I just I can't help but think that when we say her work has just begun, that's what I mean. That's what I mean when we say that. That now she's on my thoughts all the time, you know? And my mother and I was just talking to her a few days ago before, and we were going to go down there have our
American
little
Thanksgiving.
American Thanksgiving with them, and
Yeah.
and anyways, that's not the
Well, why don't
important,
you?
but
She sent you a very important text.
which one? There
The
was
one,
lots.
the one about the sacrifice.
Oh yeah, well there was a couple here that I wanted to share. Um now I got to go back. But there was this one I will share first because I just happen to have it up here. And because I will say, what I will say for Alexa is I do believe in talking to her a lot. She was always thinking and trying to bring her mind back to God,
Yeah.
always. And she sent me a little pamphlet, and then at the bottom of it, she put edit, because she was always sending me things too that it was so sweet of her. She was always sending me things. I think you would like this.
Yeah.
It was very genuine.
Yeah.
She was like, I read this and I thought of you.
Right.
And it says, I love thinking, this is Alexa, I love thinking that, quote, to be on the cross is like being in the arms of Jesus, resting on his heart. A comforting thought. That's what she said to me.
Yeah.
Like I think she just had this like nurturing, like comforting thing that she always had to comfort people. Like she was so comforting. Anyways, the other one my mom said to me, or I said to my mom that she said to me, and my mom said, let's share that, was this was a quote. She loved the Daughters of Mary.
Yeah.
The Daughters of Mary.
Yeah.
Especially the Reverend Mother there. She was always sending me like little talks of hers and stuff, and she just found them so comforting. So this was something that was in a retreat from the Daughters of Mary, Patient Resignation to Divine Providence. And she said to me, this is a wonderful, edifying conference, and I thought you might enjoy it. And then she pulled a quote from there, and it says, God chooses us to be the sacrificial victim for the salvation of our souls or the souls of others. And that's the end of the quote. And when she said that to me, I don't think she knew,
Yeah.
how do I say that?
That she was going to be a
That she was
sacrificial.
going to be a sacrificial victim. But, God chose her
Uh huh.
to do that. And she is.
And I think, like we surround ourselves with the lives of the saints.
Yeah.
And we read the stories of the lives of the saints. And we meditate on it and we think about it and hopefully we try to apply them to ourselves and how we can live better like this. But I mean, but I don't think that we really get fully the sacrificial victim part of it.
Mm-hmm.
That we are living our lives. I mean, that's what we're supposed to be living our lives, to imitate Christ.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's actually it's actually a blessing from God
Yeah.
what he allows you, or that I'm going to use some air quotes here, holy enough, because I don't really want to portray somebody as a saint
No.
because I don't know.
No,
You
we
know,
don't know.
I just know what I know.
All I know is how she what she showed to us, and I'm just gonna say
Yeah.
what I this is just what I was shown,
Yeah.
was a very pious, holy woman. And I know there's that saying, what is it? God bless him, best of men, or something.
Oh, yeah, it's my favorite for
And I
man.
thought, well, where's the one for the woman?
God bless her, best
Best
of
of women,
women. You
you
know, it's
know?
a line from Jesus of Nazareth, and I used to
Yeah,
think in my head, Saint Joseph says it to Anna because she
yeah.
mentions her husband, and
It's Satan Joachim, and he says,
and
God bless the
there was a tradition back then that if you mentioned a deceased person,
person.
they would respond
Respond
with
with,
God
God
bless
bless
him,
him,
best
best of
of men,
men.
right? So I mean, we could say God bless her, best of women.
Yeah,
You know, we could definitely say that. I would say that a
I'm
hundred
going to,
percent without blinking an eyeball.
Yeah,
You know, and and I know that they have fears, the family, about what's to come and how they're going to fill her shoes.
mm-hmm.
Like it is. I think it's very daunting for them thinking about how they're going to have to live without her.
Well, they were some very big shoes to fill,
Yeah,
you know.
but I will say, God thinks they can do it.
Well, and I will tell you because, I've been told this in my own life before, dealing with my own crosses and my own struggles, and I've been told it by many priests, by my own family, by my siblings. Certain siblings have told me God does not give you a cross He knows you cannot carry.
Yeah,
Did I say that right?
yeah,
God does not give you a cross He knows you cannot carry. And obviously, He knows,
yeah,
for whatever reason, He knows they can carry this cross. And I will never stop praying for them, and I hope we all pray for them. And
and as women, I think, especially women, I guess, we can aspire to be that valiant woman.
yeah,
You know, on Facebook, you see a lot of women struggle with their children, and they're not, they don't deal well. They don't deal well with their husband for various reasons. I'm not going to say it's their fault
well, or unwarranted,
or
or
unwarranted, but that they struggle, um, trying to keep the peace in the house, trying to keep it, you know, I think she's just a great example, a person to think about, and she did it.
mm-hmm,
She was able to do it.
yeah.
Keep that calmness and that serenity, and not yell at her children. I mean, I don't know, maybe she did yell at her children. I mean, I wasn't in their house all the time.
But from what we ever saw,
But from what we ever saw,
you know, and I would just say, it was a beautiful place to be.
mhm,
It was a beautiful home to come to, and I mean, God bless her children. Just very wonderful children.
yeah,
Um, just the sweetest.
yeah,
I mean, and that is a reflection of the mother.
yes.
That is a reflection of the mother. And you know,
The one thing that I want to add was I'm not a fan of gentle parenting. I'm going to
mhm,
put that out there. She wasn't a fan of gentle parenting,
yeah,
although she was a gentle parent.
yeah.
But I'm going to say
Gentle but firm.
gentle but firm. Like she didn't allow bad behavior.
Yeah,
They didn't allow bad behavior in their house.
yeah.
I
Mhm,
I think, if you're a gentle parent, I don't. Gentle parent doesn't mean you let bad behavior happen.
mhm, mhm.
You
Yeah,
know, I
yeah.
mean, now's not the time to go into a parenting lesson, but I'm just saying there was there was a firmness and an adamancy about doing what's right.
Mhm. Yeah.
So
So, yeah, it says, do you have anything else you want to add, or?
I don't know. I wrote down all kinds of things, and oh no, I didn't write down anything. What am I even talking about? I don't even know what I'm talking about. I should what I should have done was write down things because I've been thinking of so many things
Yeah.
to say, and I know just I guess we've said it all.
I guess we've
Unless
said it all. And
I don't
I
want to
mean,
drag on so
no,
dreary.
and I, like I said at the beginning of this podcast, against my will,
Yeah,
I did not against my will. I'm just saying, I just really, I didn't think I would be able to do this. I didn't think I could get through it. Um, but I wanted to do it for my dear friend. And,
the other thing too, which I did think was kind of a little bit of God's plan. That's why I wanted to do this because you and I knew her very well
right.
and we had a voice. We have a
Yeah.
voice. And I said, thanks to Catholic Family Podcast and
Yeah.
Kevin, we have a voice.
Yeah.
So I thought we knew her. Like I didn't know these other two women, but
Yeah.
we knew her.
Yes.
And because
Well,
we
and I said,
have a
and
voice
that's too what this it hit me all of a sudden. It just hit me out of nowhere because, I actually, it was father actually came over to the house, came to my house
to tell
to
you.
tell me
Yeah.
in person what had happened, and he called me and he said, I need to come and talk to you, and it's urgent. I have to come right now, and I was like, oh, okay, whatever, and then some other things went on, and there was a miscommunication with my grandmother who doesn't hear correctly and thought she heard anyways. I'm not even going to get into that, but you know and then it hit me after father left, like, he came here to tell me that in person
Uh-huh.
because he knew she was my good friend.
Yeah.
And I didn't understand. I knew she was my friend. Like, I'm not saying that I didn't, but I didn't know how good of a friend she was
Yeah.
because there was the distance thing. Like, and then I spent all night going through my messages and reading them over and over and over again, and all the help that we've been given back and forth to each other,
Yeah.
and all the messages, and I'm talking walls and walls of text, and I'm not a texter.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm not. But her and I back and forth, walls and walls of texts,
Yeah.
and and uh and then it hit me like a brick wall
Uh-huh.
that I just lost my friend,
Yeah.
and yeah, so I mean, I wanted to do this for her because I will uh I will forever cherish the friendship we had, even though if it was 2 short years where we just became really close, but she was a very, very good friend.
And I wanted to tell everybody, if you want to know what a valiant woman is that the Bible speaks about, she was it.
She was it,
She was it.
through and through, through and through. And the one, and women are sharing one of her favorite things to say, and it was funny that had forgotten about that until they shared that. And I was like, yeah, she did say that all the time.
Yeah.
All for thee, sweet Jesus. She said it all the time. That came off her lips all the time. All for thee, sweet Jesus. And she would say it just like that. All for thee, sweet Jesus. It was like her, my mom, oh, blessed be God.
Yeah.
God's will. That's my mom, but that was her thing.
Yeah.
You know how people have these little things they say?
Yeah, well, I didn't know I had. Well, I guess I did know that, but thanks for
Well,
telling.
if you do, but I'm just saying, I never thought that that was her thing to say until now
Right,
she's
right.
gone. And then I was like, yeah, you're right. She said that all the time.
Yeah.
And what a thing to have on your lips, that's what people remember you for, saying all the time.
Yeah.
So let's take a page from Lexa Martin's book,
Yeah.
and I'm going to try to put it on my lips all the time now. And we'll leave it there before I have to stop myself again.
Yeah.
And
We've had to stop a few times.
but I did just want to say, most importantly, too, please, everybody, please remember their family in your prayers. Please do not forget about them because they need your prayers. And please pray for dear Alexa Martin. And and ask our new little saint in heaven,
Yeah.
little St Zelie, to intercede for us, because we know without a doubt we can do that. And yeah. So, anything else you want to add before we wrap up here, Mom?
No, I think we're done.
I think we're done. So, anyways, ladies, just remember that, and we will possibly be back next week and with another episode. But again, we just wanted to take this time and make this very important podcast. And to be honest, I think this is the most important episode we've ever done. So until next time, God bless you all. May Our Lady guide you always, and Saint Teresa
And St. Zelie,
and Saint Zelie
pray
pray
for
for
us.
us.